Here are the top stories for today, October 8, 2020. 8 in 10 Filipinos favor the government's response against the pandemic. Congressman Pulong Duterte refuses to choose between Cayetano and Velasco. Third-party system being pushed to rate government employees. And Cebu is listed as top islands in Asia. Good day, I'm William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. A recent Pulse Asia survey showed that 8 out of 10 Filipinos favor the government's response against the pandemic. According to Pulse Asia's September 2020 Ulat ng Bayan survey, 84% of the Filipinos approve of the government's work to control the spread of COVID-19, as well as in providing assistance to those who lost their jobs. Meanwhile, the government earned 6% disapproval rating in terms of its initiatives to control the transmission of COVID-19 and 7% for the help it extends to those who lost their income.
Pilipinas, maraming salamat po sa binigay ninyong tiwala na naman sa ating presidente. Matapos po niya binigyan ng 91 trust rating at 91 performance rating ang presidente, 84 naman po ang binigay nyo sa pagdating ng handling ng coronavirus 19. We are humbled and we are further inspired to serve the Filipino people in this time of pandemic and crisis. Maraming salamat po.
Malacanang said it does not see the suspension of session at the House of Representatives as a reason to cause a delay in the passage of the proposed 4.5 trillion peso national budget for 2021. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque said he does not see any delay since the budget bill has been passed on its second reading and passing a proposed law on third and final reading is ceremonial. Senate President Vicente Soto III earlier claimed that the House of Representatives disregarded President Rodrigo Duterte's order to prioritize the budget since suspending its session would not allow the budget to reach the Senate before it goes on break on October 14. Roque explained that lawmakers could no longer make any amendments when a proposed law is approved on second reading. Since the House has already commenced its deliberation on the budget bill, he said the Senate can also act on the budget already. Meanwhile, presidential son and Davao City 1st District Representative Paulo Duterte said the Congress is currently mired in what seems to be a battle between two people he's close to, Speaker Alan Peter Cayetano and Speaker-in-Waiting Lord Alan Velasco. Congressman Duterte said he is saddened that the House remains divided, and if it will remain as is, the mandate to serve the people will fail. Duterte acknowledged that such a term-sharing agreement was made before and that Congressman Velasco has the right to assert his claim to the speakership. However, current House Speaker Alan Peter Cayetano has a considerable number of colleagues. Duterte said he refuses to make any statement that will favor or damage either of his two good friends. Operators of public utility vehicles and contactless payment service were ordered to remove the cost of beep cards on top of the fare load. The price of beep cards cost 80 to 100 pesos without load or stored value. The Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board, or LTFRB, issued Memorandum Circular 2020-057 imposing penalties for those who will not comply. The memo covers all road transport PUVs, such as buses and modern jeepneys, but does not include rail transportation. Meanwhile, DOTR Assistant Secretary Goddess Hope Libiran said the terms are still under discussion as to who will carry the cost of cashless cards. Libiran said they are eyeing the use of QR codes to remove card costs entirely. In the meantime, mandatory use of beep cards is still suspended at the EDSA busway. Commuters can either pay using a beep card or pay with cash before boarding the bus. The National Task Force on COVID-19 and the Interagency Task Force are scheduled to discuss a proposal to allow minor students in the computer and internet shops as a way of assisting them in their studies. This after some public school students experienced some difficulties in the conduct of their classes. Joint Task Force COVID Shield Commander Lieutenant General Guillermo Eliazar said the existing guidelines prohibits minors from entering business establishments that include computer and internet shops as part of the health safety measures. While some local government units have been providing gadgets and internet connection to their respective students, most of the LGUs do not have enough funds to extend the same assistance to their learners. DILG Secretary Eduardo Año said they feel and understand the concerns of both the students and the parents, especially the poor. That is why they are really finding ways to extend all the necessary assistance to them. The third phase of the government's National Action Plan will focus on preventing the spike of COVID-19 cases while increasing recovery rate and lowering the mortality rate posed by the disease. The government will also impose stricter health standards within workplaces and business establishments.
Dito po sa NAP Phase 3, importante po na maipagpatuloy po natin ang tagumpay na ating nakamit nitong nakaraang 6 na buwan. Patuloy din po natin palalakasin ang ating healthcare system sa tulong ng iba't ibang intervention sa ilalim po ng ating PDIPR strategy.
Galvez said the government would also boost its efforts in balancing pandemic response and economic recovery.
Nais po ng pamahalaan na wala na po tayong sasakripisyo sa health safety o tinatawag nating i-compromise ang ating economic recovery. Sa ating pagtupad sa Phase 3, there will be no more trade-offs in the implementation of their phase.
The NAP Phase 3 targets to revive the gross domestic product, which dropped during the implementation of the NAP Phase 1.
Ang NAP Phase 3 ang gagabay sa ating pagtawid sa new normal. Ito po magiging parang transition po natin, transition point.
Malacanang said Vice President Leni Robredo cannot join the regular meeting of the Interagency Task Force for the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases because she is not a member of the cabinet. This after Senator Amy Marcos urged the government to consider appointing an ordinary mother to the IATF, noting how women were outnumbered in the task force. Earlier, Roque said Robredo was being blind and deaf to the national government's efforts after she claimed that there is a lack of system and cohesive plan in the government's COVID-19 response. Meanwhile, PCOO Secretary Martin Andanar maintains that the Duterte administration has nothing to do with the trolls critical of Vice President Leni Robredo. Robredo's spokesperson, Attorney Barry Gutierrez, claimed that Robredo's performance and trust rating in a recent Pulse Asia survey was lower than other government officials because she was being targeted by trolls. He also claimed that Robredo's camp was hitting a disinformation wall and did not have the communication machinery to spread the work she had been doing. Andanar said the Duterte administration will never employ trolls to divide our society. He also said he acknowledges Attorney Barry Gutierrez's recognition of the role of the PCOO in amplifying the Duterte administration's mandate to the Filipino people, especially our policies, programs, and responses to the COVID-19 pandemic. Civil Service Commission Commissioner Eileen Lizada said she is planning to propose a third-party rating system to assess the performance of government officials and employees. Lizada cited the need for such policy when she found out that there is none when it comes to government employees who have been charged or found guilty of an administrative case, especially those who have been indicted and charged. Lizada said the CSC has the Individual Performance Commitment and Review, or IPCR, as well as the Office Performance Commitment and Review, or OPCR. However, there is no mechanism for those who have been repeatedly charged with or found guilty of a criminal or administrative case.
Siguro may corresponding demerit din yon kasi hindi naman tayo pwede maging haven ng mga tiwaling empleyado o official ng gobyerno because we are based on merit and fitness. And we are assuming that everyone is on that level.
Around 10,000 healthcare workers left the country to work abroad since the start of the year. POEA Administrator Bernard Olalia said the health workers, particularly nurses, are balik manggagawa who went home for the Christmas vacation. Nurses and other healthcare workers are allowed to work abroad as long as they have contracts signed as of August 31. Meanwhile, the POEA warns overseas Filipino workers against illegal recruiters, particularly those engaged in third country recruitment. Olalia said illegal recruiters are using different social media platforms and offering supposedly high-paying jobs to Filipinos employed overseas. Filipinos abroad are advised to always check and validate the invitation at any Philippine Overseas Labor Office, labor attachés, and the Philippine Embassy. The famous bread product Nutribun is making a comeback in the province of Pangasinan. Nutribun is used in school feeding programs to combat child malnutrition. A firm based in Santa Barbara, Pangasinan enhanced the product, making it softer, more delicious, and more nutritious. The enhanced Nutribun was formulated with the support of the Department of Science and Technology, Food and Nutrition Research Institute, and the Department of Trade and Industry, or DTI. Still to come, DepEd looks into the mistake in the airing of one of its TV episodes. The department will also investigate the suicide of a student in South Cotabato. More on these when the PNA Newsroom continues.
Sa matinding laban natin sa Coronavirus Disease 2019, sugpuin din natin ang pagkalat ng fake news. Huwag magbahagi ng impormasyon na hindi tiyak ang pinagmulan. I-check mabuti ang source ng balita. Kumuha lamang ng impormasyon mula sa mga official channel ng Department of Health. Huwag magpadala sa maling balita, basta't sama-sama at laging handa. Kaya natin to. Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
You're still watching the PNA Newsroom. The Department of Health, or DOH, says it has distributed the 1 billion pesos worth of nearly expired medicines flagged down by the Commission on Audit, or COA. To solve issues flagged by COA, the DOH formed a dedicated procurement and supply chain management team. It also reorganized the Disease Prevention and Control Bureau, the office in charge of public health commodities and supplies to be provided by local government units. It added the purchase of drugs, medicines, and commodities shall be covered by the PhilHealth benefit packages, and more funds are expected to be directly transferred to the LGUs. It said the 322 million pesos worth of items will expire on 2021 to 2023 and are also being distributed. The Department of Education acknowledged the mistake in a DepEd TV episode presenting a lesson for Mathematics 9. DepEd Undersecretary Alan Pascua said the portion of the episode has slipped quality assurance. In episode number 56, aired on DepEd TV, the linear equation 2x equals 0. The divisor should be 2 and not 0 to get the value of x. Pascua assured the public that the department will tighten its quality assurance measures for the DepEd TV to be perfect. If there is one good thing that was learned from the mistake, Pascua said it would be that the whole country learned that 0 can never be a divisor. Education officials in South Cotabato expressed shock and sadness over the death of a grade 11 learner who reportedly confided of having difficulty catching up with modular learning. A police report said that the 16-year-old victim, a student of Cebuano National High School in Barangay Cebuano in Tupi, was found dead by family members before noon Tuesday inside their old home in Purok, Big Spring. Before the incident, the learner reportedly complained to his mother that he could not answer the tasks included in the learning modules, especially in mathematics. The mother admitted that it had been hard for their family to cope with the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. Dr. Ruth Estacio, Acting Superintendent of the Department of Education South Cotabato Division, described the death of the victim as tragic and assured that they were already looking into the said matter. The Department of Tourism is eyeing the completion of the Juanico Bridge aesthetic lighting project by December. Work on the 80 million peso project resumed last month after work stoppage due to quarantine restrictions. The original completion date was in May this year. Once completed, the Juanico aesthetic lighting project is expected to attract more tourists to visit the region, especially Tacloban City and Samar provinces. It will also draw in tourism-related investments such as restaurants, cafes, souvenir shops, and accommodation facilities. The project is also expected to provide additional tourism activities in the area. The bridge's transformation would be a new attraction under the Spark Samar, a branding campaign of the local government that was launched in 2015. Agusan del Norte is recognizing select local government units and government employees for their exemplary service amid the COVID-19 pandemic in this year's Angel Awards. Jennifer Peña Gaetano has the story.
Amid the COVID-19 pandemic, the recognition of local government units in the province of Agusan del Norte was held in Butuan City, dubbed as the Accelerating New Dimensions on Good Governance and Excellence in Local Leadership, or the Angel Awards. The Angel Awards was aimed to recognize the exemplary performance of the LGUs, institutions, barangays, and employees who continue to deliver their services to the constituents despite the risks brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic. According to the ILG, the Angel Awards also serve as inspiration to the LGUs for them to excel and continue to provide quality programs and services to the public.
This has to really be replicated and duplicated in all the other agencies and LGUs. That's why the barangays are very important. In fact, they are the backbone of our governance.
Being a consistent awardee, Mayor Gov't of Carmen Agusan del Norte takes this as a challenge and vows to enhance their performance in public service.
Daghan kaayo og angay madaing buhaton ang among munisipyo, pero naningkamot pud mi ang COVID-19 kuno is a test of our leadership. Diha makita kung unsa ang atong pagserbisyo in times of crisis.
Other programs in the province that are being recognized include the Disaster Resilient LGUs, Best Performing Anti-Drug Abuse Councils, Barangay Nutrition Scholars, Most PWD-Friendly LGUs, and Ecological Solid Waste Management, among others. The Angel Awards is now in its 6th year and is expected to continue to recognize performing LGUs in the province. For the PNA Newsroom, I am Jennifer Peña Gaetano of the Philippine Information Agency, Caraga.
In our business news, the Department of Trade and Industry, or DTI, targets to implement the roadmap for the country's artificial intelligence next year. At the virtual launch of AI Coalition Wednesday, Trade Secretary Ramon Lopez said the roadmap will help the country be an AI center for excellence in the region. The DTI, together with the Asian Institute of Management, is crafting the AI roadmap for industry that covers agribusiness, manufacturing, and services industries. Lopez said, prior to the COVID-19 outbreak in the country, some industries were already rolling out AI in their operations, particularly among banks. The said AI technologies have been helping the country navigate the new normal. Lopez added the country has several programs like the Philippine Skills Framework that will reskill and upskill the local workforce to adapt quickly to the future of work with artificial intelligence. Up next, 13 former NPA rebels are now trained as peace advocates, and Cebu made it as top island in Asia. The PNA Newsroom returns after these reminders.
Tandaan ang tamang paraan ng paghuhugas at paglilinis ng kamay upang makaiwas sa iba't ibang karamdaman. Basain ng tubig ang mga kamay at sabunin. Unang sabunin ang mga palad. at ang likod ng mga kamay. Kuskusin na maigi ang pagitan ng mga daliri at maging ang mga kuko. Isunod ang pagitan ng mga hinlalaki at kuskusin ng paikot ang mga dulo ng mga daliri sa magkabilang palad. Banlawang mabuti ang mga kamay sa malinis na tubig at patuyuin ang mga kamay gamit ang single-use towel o air dryer. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa, kaya natin to! Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
Police discovered millions of pesos worth of improvised explosive devices suspected to be used by lawless elements in northern Samar. More on this from Sol Alarcon.
Some 2.1 million pesos worth of explosive materials were recovered by the PNP in northern Samar. The explosive materials were recovered in an abandoned improvised explosive manufacturing site as a result of its follow-up operations. According to police authorities, more than 900 cable wires, blasting caps, and other explosive ingredients were recovered.
This was the offshoot of the prior incident. This was received by our operatives. There were still manufacturing facilities of IED operating in the island municipality of San Antonio.
The recovered materials are now under the custody of the Northern Samar PNP. This is the second discovery by the authorities of explosive materials in said area. Last month, some 3.5 million pesos worth of explosive materials were also recovered in other places. According to the informant, said raw explosive materials were not only used in illegal fishing. Based on the information gathered by the police, finished products are being distributed not only in eastern Visayas but also in Masbate, Cebu, and Quezon. For the PNA Newsroom, Sol Alarcon, Philippine Information Agency, Region 8.
Former rebels are training to be peace advocates to convince their former comrades to leave the communist terrorist group and embrace the opportunities that await them. 13 former rebels completed the speaker's team training for the de-radicalization program held at the Camp General Macario B. Peralta Jr. in Hamindan, Capiz. Major Senon Panchito III, Chief of the Division Public Affairs of the 3rd Infantry Division, said the 13 were chosen because of their potential to become good speakers. The former rebels would assist the government in its peace and development initiatives. Once trained, they will be sent to counter those who are still organizing and recruiting for the armed movement. The program was held with the support of People's Advocacy for Collaboration and Empowerment and an organization of former rebels. A ranking communist New People's Army member and his wife have surrendered to military authorities in Zamboanga, Sibugay. Lieutenant Colonel Manaros Boransing, commander of the 97th Infantry Battalion, identified the surrenderers as Ka Mikoy, a logistics officer, and his wife, Ka Janine. The two surrendered after hearing news that their former leader, alias Kawarwar, and other surrenderers are in good condition and humanely treated by the Army. The NPA couple added that their life was made difficult within the rebel movement as they were not allowed to raise a family of their own. The couple used to cooperate under Guerrilla Front Feliciano Alpha of the NPA's Western Mindanao Regional Party Committee. Boransing said the surrenderers reunited with their families after a decade of working for the rebel movement. Authorities are now working to bring to the international arena the series of indigenous people killings perpetrated by the New People's Army in Surigao del Sur. The National Commission on Indigenous Peoples, or NCIP, condemned the slaying of Hawudon Jumar Bucales, the indigenous people's mandatory representative of Lianga Town, and the latest in the spate of killings among members of the Manobo tribe. NCIP Chair Alan Capuyan said the killings constitute crimes punishable under international human law. Kapuyan said the NCIP will file appropriate charges against the Communist Party of the Philippines and its armed wing, the NPA. Surigao del Sur Police Provincial Office Director Colonel James Goforth vowed to support the filing of charges against the CPP-NPA. Bucales was killed in an ambush by NPA rebels last October 4 in Sitio Maparasanon, Barangay Banahaw, Lianga. In our foreign news, a German biotechnology firm has applied for the approval of a potential vaccine for COVID-19 by the European Medicines Agency, or EMA. Dr. Ugur Sahin, a Turkish scientist and co-founder of Biotech, along with American medicine firm Pfizer, is expecting a license from the EMA for the COVID-19 vaccine candidate BNT162B1. Peter Honig, the senior vice president of Pfizer, said they are making every effort to develop a safe and effective vaccine. The U.S. agreed in July to pay Pfizer and BioNTech $1.95 billion for 100 million doses of their vaccine if it proves safe and effective. It also announced a $1.6 billion agreement with Novavax to manufacture and deliver 100 million doses by January 2021. The European Union has secured 300 million doses of COVID-19 vaccine from BioNTech and Pfizer. Cebu and the Visayas Islands have been named top island in Asia, leading 3 other Philippine islands in the top 10 of the Conde Nast Travelers 2020 Reader's Choice Awards. In its 33rd Reader's Choice Awards, Conde Nast hailed Cebu for its pristine beaches and diving, which draws millions of travelers annually. It also praised the Spanish and Roman Catholic influences in Cebu City, particularly the Basilica Minores del Santo Niño. Palawan, Siargao, and Boracay also made its way to the top 10 list, ranking 4th, 5th, and 6th, respectively. In last year's Conde Nast ranking, Boracay was number 1, Cebu and the Visayas were number 2, and Palawan was number 4. Tourism Secretary Bernadette Romulo Puyat said this latest citation boosts the confidence of the Department of Tourism as it gradually reopens domestic tourism. Here's another look at today's biggest stories. 8 in 10 Filipinos favor the government's response against the pandemic. Congressman Pulong Duterte refuses to choose between Cayetano and Velasco. Third-party system being pushed to rate government employees. And Cebu is listed as top islands in Asia. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. To check more news content, visit our webpage or head on to the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC13. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know. From the PNA Newsroom, I am William Theo. Good day and stay safe, everyone.